prior to my beginning of our symposium on Takri inscriptions in Pahari painting, I think it is very much relevant to shed light on the relationship of text and image, as many of these paintings, they were manuscript illustrations, and how the mode of writing on images have changed over the years, and how the final manifestation took place in the context of South Asia in Pahari miniature painting. So before we deal with Pahari painting or art in general, I think it is very much necessary to understand the relationship between text and image when it comes to a visual medium such as comics. So if you take the case of the traditional comic book medium, you shall get to know that it is the visual which is usually provided significance, and the text takes the back seat. So with the use of hand gestures, facial expressions, the arrangement of space, is one able to put context in a comic panel, and the text is more of an accompanist, which provides us the literary support which is needed in order to know the story. And here is an example from Popeye. Olive Oil and Popeye, they're strolling through the park, and Popeye says that the other person, he is not healthy. And Olive says, you should not say such things about overweight people, and anybody can have a good quality. And then he asks her to cite one, and she says that perhaps he's a good example of a person with bad health. So the text makes us understand the relevance of what is happening. Otherwise, the visual language of the comic strip is pretty self-explanatory. But with the passage of time and the introduction of internet comics, things have changed for the better good. So here is the case of a very popular comic strip by the name Cyanide and Happiness. And in the case of Cyanide and Happiness, you can see that these artists have a reputation of repeating the visuals many times, with the text being changed every time. So here you can see a case of a person saying that he packed cyanide in his lunch, and now his lunch has become a suicide packed lunch. And the other person says that you're going to kill yourself for the sake of that pun, right? And the guy who ate cyanide says, I figured you would tell me to afterwards anyway. So anyway, my point is, so now, since in the age of internet, repetition is something which has become more of an asset, since an information overload is something that was inevitable. So this format of comic and the text and image relationship has fluctuated a bit, and the text has started receiving more prominence than to the visual. Rage comics is also another important example in this sense. So the figures of rage comics, they're also highly repetitive, and one can figure out without even reading the textual context what the person, the face that this person is making, what does this expression signify, or what does this panel signify right here. Obama saying not bad is also a very popular motif in contemporary discussions online. And the text now becomes more prominent because we are already familiar with these visual expressions, and we need text to provide us a context. So instead of focusing on the visuals, which have become completely secondary by now, it is the text that we are focusing on. And this is the most contemporary form of online visual culture: memes. So here again, like this gentleman right here, his online name that has been bestowed to him is Hide Your Pain Herald. And his reputation is of a person who laughs and cries at the same time. So he found something funny, but now because of what he found, now he's sad simultaneously. So the context right here is when all your friends are talking about all the jobs they applied for online, and you just finished a survey to find out what type of bread you are. So in this case, the visual is not even secondary. It is completely irrelevant. We don't even focus on it for such a long time, and it's only the text which holds our attention. So if I have to take these things into consideration, and we see how these compare to the history of visual arts in 16th to 18th century South Asia, and we shall see that those were the manuscript illustrations, which were the counterparts of text and image culture in the region, in the Indian subcontinent. So the earliest text and image significance that we get in the region is in the form of Buddhist manuscripts, including the Prajnaparamita Sutra. Then we have Jain manuscripts such as Kalagacharya Katha and Kalpasutra. Then there were manuscripts which were compiled during the Delhi Sultanate age, including the Delhi Shahnama, Nim'atnama, and Chaurapanchasika. And then we have Mughal manuscripts in the form of Tutinama, Akbarnama, and Padshahnama. So we shall see these in chronological manner, and then and this is how we will base our understanding of how the text and image relationship is being followed in the Pahari context. So in the earliest case, which is the Prajnaparamita, here we are able to see that on this palm leaf banner, most significance is bestowed on the text, and the image, the visual, which is right here, or even adjoining at the two ends where the code shall go through, takes a secondary significance. So it is more, it does not serve any other purpose than being just a decorative piece. And the people who are reading this manuscript, they are more interested in understanding the context of what is written, and the art is predominantly for art purpose. But let us move forth a few centuries, and when we come to the Jain manuscript age, here we can see that the visuals have started receiving more importance compared to how it was in the case of the Buddhist manuscript that we saw prior to it. And here the text and the image are almost sharing a 70-30 ratio when it comes to the division of space on the palm script. Further moving on in time, with the advent of Islam in the South Asian subcontinent, we get to see the introduction of paper in India. And with the introduction of paper, we do not need palm leaves medium anymore, and the format has also changed from landscape to vertical. And here the text is being arranged in a columnish manner, and the visuals are receiving more and more prominence. Here we can see that the visual is actually covering a major portion of the folio. So the Shahnama is the story of the kings of Iran, and here is the fight of Rustam against an army of the foreign king. This is from the book of Nim'atnama, one of my favorite manuscripts from South Asia. And Nim'atnama is the book of cookery. So it's a recipe book, medieval Khana Khazana. So in this book, there are recipes to several delicacies which were popular in India at that time. So the recipe for kheer, the recipe for samosa. So here something is being made for the ruler Ghiyasuddin, sitting right here. And these are all but recipes written in order to prepare this particular food, what kind of apparatus is required, which steps are to be followed. So here we can see that even though the text is of relative significance, now the visual has started taking up a major portion of the folio, and the text is shrinking more and more. And by the time we come to this age, which is early 16th century, this is the manuscript of Chaurapanchasika. And there are 50 paintings in this set, 52 paintings in this set, and almost all of them are based on poetries by the Kashmiri poet Bilhan. And since the paintings are based on poetic couplets, dohas, so it does not require that much space. So the text is put right here on top in a text box, and the visual takes the entirety of the folio. So this is the evolution of text and image relationship in India prior to the advent of Mughals. And the Mughals required their own distinct identity in this case, because nobody has worked that much with the relationship of text and image as the Mughal emperors themselves, who were avid commissioners of paintings and manuscripts as well. So here is the case of Tutinama. So Tutinama was commissioned by Akbar when he was an adolescent, perhaps no more than 20 years. And Tutinama is a set of stories, tales. It would be very much interesting to have a completely different session dedicated solely to the stories and paintings of Tutinama, because they are so wonderful. Anyway, so Tutinama is a tale of a parrot who tells his mistress 52 stories and to keep her at home for 52 consecutive nights. And then the visuals or the rest of the plot just goes around those stories very much in a manner similar to 1001 Arabian Nights or Alif Lala. So here again we can see that the visual has captured a major portion of the folio. This is around 1560 to 1565. And this is Tariq Alfi. So Tariq Alfi deserves importance because this text was compiled during the reign of Akbar. So it was an original piece of writing. And that is why Tariq Alfi captures a major portion of the folio in its paintings, and the illustrations, they take a backseat and they become secondary. But in cases such as Ramayana, the significance is given to the visuals because the paintings are completely fantastical, and the depictions of monsters, different deities, they are far more important for the commissioner of these paintings, who is Akbar, than the textual data. So that is why we see these very small textual panels on top of the paintings, and the paintings take almost 95% of the surface value of the folio. So this is the Putreshti Yajna, and here is Indra and other rishis, Vishisht and his lot, and this is Agni Purusha emerging out of the fire with that famous kheer in his hands. By the time we reach to the reign of Shah Jahan, we see that the text is no more on the painting. Rather, all the inscriptions are done on the back, which is also known as the verso of the folio, and the entire space is reserved only for the illustration. So this is by the mid 17th century, the 1650s. And also you can see here, so there is no text on this image except for the name of the painter. It reads Amal Govardhan. So the painting was made by the painter Govardhan, and this is a posthumous or a post-death portrait of Akbar, with his symbolism, with lion on one side and cow on the other, to suggest that there is harmony in Akbar's court. And then European angels are coming and putting a crown on Akbar's head because he was a divine ruler sent by God himself. And this is the reign of Aurangzeb, and now we see that the inscriptions are nowhere to be seen at all, and they are just being used in order to determine who is who. So here's a label reading that this is the Mughal, this is the Pasha of Hindustan, Aurangzeb, and then his other people are kept here. So now the inscriptions are nothing more than mere labels in a fashion very similar to scientific diagrams. And this is the period when Pahari paintings start blooming in its early stages. And this fashion of using inscriptions as labels is what is being followed in the Pahari hill states. So now we know the history of inscriptions on paintings in South Asia, but what was the purpose of inscriptions when it comes to Pahari painting? So the inscriptions were used to identify the subject matter, be it portraits, narratives. By narratives, I mean the episode, what is the story of the painting, and the identification of deities, which gods or goddesses are being depicted. And inscriptions were also laid in order to cite the literary source. So if there is a painting based on the poetry of Rasa Manjari, so the inscriptions would be laid in order to identify that this painting is based on this particular verse, so that when the Raja, who would usually be the commissioner of Pahari painting, when he sees a painting, so he's able to understand what is the context or relevance of the visual. Inscriptions were also being used to mention the name of the painter, even though it wasn't done that much, but still it was happening. And also to mark a particular occasion the painting was made for. In certain cases, the Raja would ask the painting to be made in order to commemorate the celebration of Janmashtami or something of that sort. And that is why inscriptions were added. We shall see all these examples as we move forth. Let us begin. Okay, so this is a portrait study from Chamba, and as you can see here, so this gentleman right here, it reads so here is Mia Bishambar. There is no that nasal ang on top, but we know this is Bishambar because if we read it as Bisbhar, we know there was a person by the name of Bishambar in the Chamba court. He was the younger son of Raja Balabhadra Varmana. And on the basis of this information, we are able to identify this gentleman as Bishambar. In case any of you find this information confusing, you could always ask the question at the end of the session. And then here we have a person, Vidhat Pal Kutlahariya. So we know for a fact, so by Kutlahariya, it appears to be the case that the person was from the princely state of Kutlahar. So if we study the royal genealogy of Kutlahar, we know that this Bidhatpal was actually Vidvatpal. So the person who has written these inscriptions, they have greatly simplified these names, and instead of writing Vidvatpal, they just wrote Bidhatpal, and that was the end of it. This is why understanding Takri is a very difficult case. So this is Mia Bishambar, and this is Vidvatpal Kutlahariya. There's a very strong possibility that both of these portraits were recorded at the same time, perhaps in the same day at the same place. So Vidutpal Kutlehria might have visited Chamba state at the time when this portrait was being made. So here we have the portrait of a Chamba Raja. Let us see. So again, poorly written. So here is Cha. If we read it like this, then this looks like the, and this is Allah, and he has tried to add this thing right here. And here we have the Ra. This is a slightly distorted Ja. So this part at least is Raja. Here is an U. Here is the. So if this is the, now we know that this and this letter, they do not look the same. And this looks more like the, so we shall cancel it for now. So it will be Raja Ud, and then there is this matra on top, so it will become Raja Uday, and this is Singh. There is no problem about it. So Raja Uday Singh. So Cha, there is something blank in middle, and then there is La, Cha dash La, Raja Uday Singh. There is a strong possibility this is actually Chambyal Raja Uday Singh, and this portion at least is Ba, and this elongation right here has been done by the person who wrote this inscription in order to perhaps suggest yeah. So Chambyal Raja Uday Singh, Chambyal Raja Uday Singh, Raja Uday Singh of Chamba. This is the image. And we know that Raja Uday Singh succeeded his father Chhatar Singh at a very early age. So he might have been around 12 or 13 by the time he came to the throne. And in this portrait, since he's keeping long sideburns, so he would have been around 16 or 17, but not a mature adult man to support a beard. And then a few years later, he was murdered by his courtiers for marrying the daughter of a barber. He had 22 wives, and that is how he met his end. Here is another portrait of the same king. You can see the similarity. This is in National Museum, New Delhi. It reads, okay, so Cha, the same thing has been done here. Chambayal. There is a dot right here. I don't know why this has been added. So perhaps just to make the L sound like L. Chambayal. Raja is clear. Uday Singh. And this time, instead of putting that dash straight line on top, this person has tried to go the Devanagari way, or some other variant is being followed right here. Chambyal Raja Uday Singh. So here is Chambyal Raja Uday Singh. It is a late portrait. Okay, this is also a portrait of Uday Singh, the same person we have been looking for the past two paintings. This time the inscription is in Persian. So just to give a perspective, Raja Uday Singh Chambawala. So it has been written in Farsi, Raja Uday Singh Chambawala. So Chambawala is word is root for the word Chambyal. The same case is in a lot of Pahari suffixes in royal houses. So Chambawala, Chambyal, Jammuwala, Jamwal. So this is how these surnames have come to flight. Yeah, Jaswal. The person from Jaswa is Jaswawala, Jaswal. Okay, so this is rather clear, far similar to Gurmukhi than Takri. So Shri Raja Rajrup. So Raja Rajrup was the king of Nurpur, and he was the son of Raja Jagat Singh. And here is Rajrup standing in all his royal glory, wearing a Mongol jacket and whatnot. Raja Rajrup. And as you can see, in almost all of these cases, the inscriptions are being added on the top border. So the central space is completely reserved for the image, and this labeling is done just so that the people, the future generations, people like you and I, are able to identify these figures when we get to see these paintings. So these were completely done in order to keep the memory of these rajas for future generations. So here is three more portrait studies on a single folio. So it reads, as you can see, it's very clear to read. Jai Singh, Jai Singh, the Vizier of Chamba, younger brother of Raja Chadar Singh. This is this is the second Ka, Sakat Singh. So this is Mia Shakat Singh. Raja Singh Galeria. Raj Singh Guleria. Raj Singh Guleria was the Raja of Guler. So here is Raj Singh Guleria going through box. Okay, so this inscription is incorrect. So this is supposed to be Jagat Singh. Somebody has written Jagat Singh, which is wrong. And this is Jagat Singh. We know that because we can compare his facial features to a lot of other portraits. So Raja Jagat Singh of Nurpur, Jaroha portrait, because he's sitting by the window. Okay, this is one of my favorite portraits from Chamba. And the inscriptions are written very clearly. So it reads Shri Patsaha Shri Patsha Jahangir. Shri Pasha Jahangir. So this would be the Emperor Jahangir. And here are two gentlemen sitting. This person is Shri Gosai. Gosai is Goswami. Shri Gosai Narayanji. So this is Shri Goswami Narayanji. And this person right here is Shri Gosai Bhagwanji. Shri Goswami Bhagwanji. Okay. So the story of Narayanji and Bhagwanji is a very famous subject matter in Chamba painting. So what happened to be the case was Bhagwanji and Narayanji were two Vaishnavite saints who used to live near Nurpur. So one time when Jahangir visited Nurpur, he was told that there exist two people in this place who are very much well known for their self-respect. So Jahangir fed both of them poison in order to see whether they survive poison's effect or not. And then they survived the effect, and their legend became very popular in the hill states. So this is Narayanji and Bhagwanji, and here is Pasha Jahangir feeding them the poison. All right, so the portrait part of our discussion is over, and now we are coming towards a poetic piece, poetic verses. I'm sorry, paintings based on poetic verses or literary sources. So this is a very famous painting set. This is known as the Basoli Rasamanjari. So Rasamanjari was a was a literary piece written in the 16th century by Bhanudatta. So Bhanudatta's Rasamanjari, and Rasamanjari means the garland of rasas, or the garland of essence or mood or sentiments. So most of these poetries of Rasamanjari, they deal with the emotion of love, and even the Pahari paintings of love also is a topic worth exploring in detail. So this painting right here, let us first read the inscription, then we talk about what is being painted. So it reads madhu dhua madhua. This is the Basoli abhisarika. So this is Madhua Abhisarika, and if we know the content of Rasamanjari, we know what the scribe is talking about is Madhya Abhisarika. So Madhya Abhisarika is a type of heroine in the text of Rasamanjari. Madhya means the woman whose desire to make love with the male and her shyness are in equal balance. So here's a woman whose desire to sleep with Krishna and also keep her shyness intact are in equal measures. And Abhisarika is the heroine who sets out of her house in the middle of the night, facing every challenge just to make love to her beloved. So the case right here is in this painting is Krishna asks the Naika that you faced so many hurdles on your way on your way to my house. You went through this heavy rainfall in the dead of the night. There were snakes going about on the ground, facing so many dangers. You have come to see me, but now that when I touch you, you start shivering of shyness. What am I to do with you? So this is the subject matter of this painting, and it is only by this inscription that we are able to know what is happening as per the story of this visual. Okay, here's another grand painting from Basoli, and it reads, let us first read. It is Po Dha, if you guys can see, Podha Ba A Ba Podha Ba S K Podha Basak Se Jua Podha Basak Sejua. This is Prodha Vasak Sajja. Proda is the woman who has matured in the art of making love, and she is not shy anymore. So she is a Prodha, and Vasak Sajja is the one who sets the bed to make love to her beloved. So she is the mature one, and she is the one who's setting the bed. So she has done everything correct as per the desires and demands of her lover. She has put the camphor on fire. She has kept fruits of different sorts. There are wine bottles of different kinds for him to enjoy, and the bed has been set with the freshest of carpets with the freshest of bed covers. There are flower garlands, bolsters, and she is now setting up her hair as per the way her beloved likes, and the door is half open so that it suggests that she's expecting somebody to arrive, and her bedchamber door is open because it's only meant for him to come. So this is the symbolism of the painting, and by this inscription right here we are able to read it. And this is page number 65 and painting number 37 as suggested by the inscriptions right here. We saw this one previously. Okay, this looks a little bit problematic, but let me tell you what the content is. So this reads Mutha Neodha. So this Neodha is Navodha, and this is Mugdha. Mugdha Navodha. So she's Mugdha because her desire to make love and her shyness are in equal measures. And she's a Navoda because she's an adolescent. So she's a new wife. And these two ladies sitting right here are talking about her condition. So the one lady says, who told Krishna to marry a wife so young? Whenever she's able to sit with him on the bed, but whenever he makes a move, she tries to run away. It is almost like Krishna is trying to balance Mercury on his palm, so something which is impossible. So this woman is something Krishna cannot control. So this is Mugdha Navodha, and these are the Pahari paintings of love. Okay, this one is Madhya. Okay, I'm sorry. Previous was Mugdha. So Mugdha is the one who is completely shy and she has no desire to make love. This one is Madhya. She's the one who has the desire to sleep and shyness in equal measures. So she's Madhya. Madhya means medium. And she's way, just a moment, please. Way pralubdha. So she's Madhya Vipralabdha. So Vipralabdha is the one who had planned a rendezvous with her beloved, but for some reason he did not show up. So she set the bedchamber, the door, everything, but he completely bailed out on her, and now he is nowhere to be found. And she is now completely confused and dazed, and she's like, "Ab wo to nahi aaya, so let me quickly have a pan." So Mugdha Vipralabdha. A wonderful painting. Look at the depiction of the vegetation in the background. Wonderfully done. Okay, so this one is Parkiya Abhisarika Anadhakar. Okay, so she is Parkiya Abhisarika Andhakar. It means Parkiya means somebody else's wife. Abhisarika means the one who sets out of her house to make love. You remember we saw it in the first painting. And Andhakar means darkness. So somebody else's wife has set out in dark to meet her lover in darkness. So here is Krishna waiting for her in the grove, and she has set out of her house, and that is her Sakhi. And Sakhi is telling her that there are so many hurdles, so many difficulties on your way. The rain is, it's raining cats and dogs. I don't know what you see in Krishna that you are going to meet him in such a dark, on such a dark night. So, as per Vaishnavite philosophy, all of our souls, mundane souls such as yours and mine, we are Atma, and Krishna is the ultimate Paramatma. And the purpose of our life is to manifest ourselves in the Paramatma. And the manifestation can only be done through a guru. So, in this painting, it is the Sakhi who takes the role of the guru. The heroine, the Naika, is the Atma, and Krishna is the Paramatma. So when the Atma is facing all these different challenges to meet the Paramatma, the Guru saying that your devotion to Krishna must be otherworldly. That is why you are ready to face so many hurdles just to be one with the ultimate spirit. So this is the philosophical aspect of Pahari paintings of love. Okay, so let us see this one. This is the easiest. Gupta Parkiya. We know what Parkiya is, right? We saw right here in the previous painting. Parkiya means somebody else's wife. Gupta means secret. So Gupta Parkiya is a woman who is having an extramarital affair, but she tends to keep her affair a secret. So the Naika, who is right here, is telling the Sakhi, who is right here. She says, Sakhi, last night there was a cat and a cat and a mouse who had entered my bedchamber. They kept making noise all night. Because of them, I could not sleep at all. That is why I have gotten these dark circles. And when I tried to intervene in their fights, they started scratching me. That is why I have these bite marks and scratches on my body. And the Sakhi is like, I know what happened, so you don't need to make stories. So this is Gupta Parkia, another wonderful painting, and the beautiful depiction of flora and fauna in the background. And this is painting number 21. Okay, so these were the paintings of the Rasamanjari from Basohli. Now we come to some Ragamala paintings. Ragamala is also another very famous subject matter from the Pahari hill states. It means the garland of ragas. So what the Ragamala is the depiction of different ragas, raginis, and their ragaputras of the Indian classical system in visual format. So when you listen to a raga, what kind of mood it evokes is best described by these Ragamala paintings. So we have one example right here. First, let us read the inscription, then we talk about it. So Rag Sarag Rag Sarang Shri Rage da Putter. Rag Sarang Shri Rage da Putter. So Rag Sarang, the son of Shri Rag, the Putter. This thing right here is incomplete. So this is Rag Sarang right here. And Rag Sarang is usually sung in daytime. So it's a daytime raga. So, and the sound of Rag Sarang is often compared to that which is made of churning buttermilk. So here a lady is churning buttermilk, and yeah, in a picture, and a courtly gentleman is standing right in front of her asking for some buttermilk because the day is too hot. So this is how the rag has been described in visual format. The daytime, din ka waqt, garmi, and then the sound is compared to that of a buttermilk being churned in pot. So this is the inscription and this is the visual right here. Here is another beautiful painting from Basohli. This is in the Cleveland Museum. So I was the one who translated this inscription. It reads, Ragini, Ragini, Bilauli, Bilauli, Bilavali, Bharo, Di Bharaja. So Ragini Bilavali, the wife of Raga Bhairava. So the sound of Bilavali Ragini is compared to that of this toy held by the baby, and this dwarf-like figure is supposed to be a child, an infant, and he is being fondled by his mother. So the sound that this toy makes is that of the Ragini Bilavali. Okay, we all know what this is, right? It is supposed to be an Snehi, Snehi Ragini, Bhairodi Bharaja, just like the previous one, painting number 3. So Snehi Ragini, the wife of Bhairava. So here is a couple seated in a bedchamber and she's offering him a flower right here. Snehi Ragini Bhairodi Bharaja. Again, similarly, Rag Hemal, Rag Hemal, Rag, okay, Rag Hemal, Deepakesut, Deepakesut. So the Rag Hemal, the son of Deepak Rag, Rag Deepak. So the sound of Hemal is compared to that of a parakeet, a parrot, and here are 2 parrots seated on his hand. Beautiful painting. So similarly, Rag Chandra, here is Chandra Hindol Sut, the son of Hindol. I'm sure when I give the assignment today to translate a few paintings, it will not be that much of a challenge because all these inscriptions are written very clearly, especially those of the Basoli Ragamala. Okay, now things start becoming a little bit problematic when we start having inscriptions like these. This is a painting from Chamba. Here you have an old man being seated on a throne, and Krishna, denoted by his blue color, and Balarama, denoted by his white color, are supported by Gopas or cowherds, denoted by their headdresses and their shorts, are surrounded by other members of the court, and there is a dancing procession happening at the lower end. So, some sort of a it's an happy occasion of sort. Let us see what is happening in this scene. Even though this is pretty much self-explanatory, still the labeling has been done. Very clear handwriting. Ugra Sane, which means to Ugrasen. Ugrasen ki Raj. This is slightly damaged. Dita. Ugrasen ki Raj Dita. So the rule was handed over to Ugrasen. Now, if we know the subject matter of Bhagavad Puran, we know Ugrasen was put into captivation by his son Kansa, and then Krishna came, slay Kansa, and restored Ugrasen's empire. So here is Ugrasen's coronation as the Raja of Mathura. And then this is very important, this inscription that we have on top. Shri Miye Shamsher Singhe Likhya. So it says that this is written by Mia Shamsher Singh, the Wazir Shamsher Singh of Chamba, the younger brother of Raja Umed Singh of Chamba. So it is written by Shamsher Singh of Chamba. Likhya Tatha Takhne. Takhne means at that time, Likhya Takhne. So when Shamsher Sen wrote, it means when Shamsher Sen gave the order or gave the commission, Takhne, then Lehrue, the painter Lehru, Likhya. So Shamsher Sen was the one who gave the order, and Lehru, the painter, made the paintings. Takhne Lehrue Likhya, Samvat 33. We know when there are 2-digit samvats, then which samvat are they talking about? If anybody know the answer, you can drop it in the chat box. Samvat 33. Then there is Magh Parvishte 35. So the month of Magh, which is roughly November, 35th day. And Sabhi, the rest has been damaged. We don't know what it says afterwards. Sabhi Najar Kita. Okay. So the painting was presented to the. Yes, you are correct. Shastra Samvat. So yeah, so on this particular day, in this particular year, the painting was given to the patron, Raja Shamsher. So this is the year 33. You add 27 to it, and you get 60. So it was in the year 1760 that the painting must have been shown to. Yeah, wonderful, all of you. Good job. So in the year 1760, the painting must have been given to Raja Mia Shamsher Singh of Chamba to see. And this is why reading this inscription is so interesting. We would not have been able to find out who was the painter, who these paintings were commissioned by, unless in case we did not find this painting ever. So the whole thing has been completely decoded just by reading the inscription on one particular piece. Another painting, slightly late, I'm sorry. Let us see. We know when we know wherever there are 4 kids and one of them is blue, who we are talking about, right? So this is supposed to be a scene from Ramayana. Ram. This is very easy to read. K O S L. We know this is how the year is added at the end in Chambaya, and then A. Kausalya, Ram Kausalya. L. This is a later Gurumukhi inspired character, which we do not see, which we do not usually see in Takri. Lakshman, Satarghan, Shatrughan, Sumitra. Now you see that small e. It means the Sikh influence is coming from Punjab. And again, the double A's. So this is practically Gurmukhi that we are reading right now because it's a late painting. KK, Bharat. So this is the Holy Family. Another one. So this labeling has been done in order to identify the deities in the paintings. So in case right here, let us do it. We know who was the god who was half lion, half man. And look at this gentleman right here, directly looking at us, the beholders. Narsingh Hiranyakashipu. Narsingh Hiranyakashipu Pakdi Leya. So Narsingh has caught hold of Hiranyakashipu, and this caught hold has been done pretty badly. See, so the first here is the hand being held. Here is the ultimate death grapple, the death lock. The tail has also come into Narsingha's clutches, and he's also trying to place his feet so that the weight is balanced in the other direction so that he can just tumble him upside down. And this is the face when you realize you messed up, and this is the smile you make when you have your enemy by the tail. A beautiful painting. This is from Basoli, attributed to the painter Manuku of Guler. And Nrsimha, as we know, emerged out of the pillar. So here's the broken pillar right here. Wonderful sketch. Painting number 54. Okay, so these are the paintings in which the labeling is done on the recto, which means the front of the painting. And then there are paintings which are completely empty at front, but then we find these long inscriptions on the verses. So this is a Soratha. Soratha is a poetic verse, a form of poetry. The paintings are based on the subject matter of Madhavanala Kamakandala. So Madhava was a musician, and he fell in love with a courtesan by the name of Kamakandala, and this is their tragic love story. So Madhava had a captivating voice, and whenever he would start singing, women would swoon all around him. And this is a similar thing is happening here. So they started swooning, they're falling down, and some women have started taking off their jewelry, some women have started undressing themselves, and the pots that they had brought from their homes to fetch water in for their children are just now as lifeless as they are themselves. Complete captivation. So this is what Prince would do in the 80s in the United States. So I translated this inscription for the Cleveland Museum in 2020. And now, in case if I have to do it again, it will take me a long time. But if you go to the museum website and you search for Madhavanala Kamakandala paintings, you will be able to see the translations that I have done. And this is just not the case. You see that there are such elongated inscriptions as well, almost capturing half of the verso, based just describing whatever is happening in the painting. So this is the end of the story of Madhavanala Kamakandala. As we can see, page number 13. So there was this Raja by the name Vikramaditya. So Vikramaditya came, and then Vikramaditya started asking Kamakandala about Madhava, and then he, just to test her love, he says that Madhava has died. Just on hearing this news, Kamakandala also dies, and everybody is crying, mourning her demise. And then Vikramaditya was like, "Oh my God, I wish I hadn't do that. It's just a prank, bro." And here we see that the horse groom has also held his head down in shame. So the prank did not end very well for our guy right here. Yes, the name of the museum, I'll just write it down here for everyone to see. Cleveland Museum of Art, Ohio. So I am a consultant at the museum for Indian painting. And let me just write the website: clevelandart.org. So this is the website. So this is again from Madhavananda Kamakandala. And this painting is from the Nurpur Rasamanjari. We saw the Basoli ones. So unlike the Basoli ones, we don't find inscriptions written in black ink on top. Instead, the whole poetic verse has been written at the verso. So it reads Madhya. Now we know who the Madhya is, right? The one in equal measures who has the desire to make love as well as shyness intact. Madhya, this is yeah, it reads like ma, but the author, the scribe, attempted to write sa on his part, but he made a mistake. It is Madhya Swadhin Patika. So Madhya and Swadhin Patika is the one who has her husband in her control. So she has enslaved her husband, and this is the poor guy. You can see from his expression. And here is the Swadhin Patika, and here is Sakhi. So they are talking about like, you do not treat your husband very well. Why do you behave with him so much, even though he treats you so well? And she says that he gets what he deserves. So perhaps he made some mistake, and now he owes it to her for the rest of his life. So here is the original Sanskrit poetic verse from Rasamanjari, verse number 70. And here is, it reads Arth, which means meaning, and then the translation of the Sanskrit verse into the vernacular. And this is the last example of paintings, inscriptions, which suggest to us that the painting was made on a particular occasion. Unfortunately, I do not have the photograph of the backside of this leaf, but the inscription which was written here read Shri Nripti Vikramaditya Samvat 1865, Shastra Samvat 84, Re Bhadro Pravishte Ik Shri Krishna Janmashtami Vratotsav Kita, Shri Maharaja Ishwari Sen ji. So Ishwari Sen celebrated the Janmashtami of Krishna in the year Vikram Samvat 1865, deduce 57, and we get 1808, the year. And Chitere Sajnu ki farmaya. So the painter Sajnu was asked, Tis mafak likhya ji. So the painter Sajnu was ordered to make a painting to commemorate, to commemorate this council of people who had gathered at the court of Raja Ishwari Sen. Daroga Upadha Janki Das Savare Bhale Mansare Nae Age Vakha Likheji. So Daroga Janki Das wrote the name of the people who had arrived at the court to attend Krishna Janmashtami festival. So here is Daroga Janki Das himself, and the names have been written by him. So there are different Pathaniyas, Chambyars, Katoch. So people from all over Himachal, that times Himachal, had arrived at the court of Maharaja Ishwari Sen of Mandi in order to celebrate the birth of Krishna. And here we also have a miniature, some Tikka, the Rajkumar of young age. So this is a brief introduction to reading Takri on Pahari paintings. Thank you.